Hello, Ray. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great for a Monday morning. Thank you very much.
My name is Jacqueline Burkepile. I am the ChurchPOP editor, and it's so good to have you today. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. It's so cool that you are Father Emil Kapaun's nephew. That is just amazing.
Yeah, what's even more amazing for me is my middle name is Emil. So I've got two younger brothers or two older brothers, and I always ask mom, I was like, how come I'm the youngest of the boys? And she's like, it just seemed like the right time. So I've made up my life's effort to try to live up to at least a little bit of how father lived his life.
So did you ever meet him, or do you have any memories of him, of meeting your uncle?
Knowing that he died in 51 and I was born in 57. So there was actually my oldest sister was alive, but she was just a little baby at the time. So none of us, all my memories came from my grandmother and telling all the stories about father and how he grew up and how he knew from an early age that, he was going to be a priest. I mean, he always knew what his vocation in life was. Even, 4 years old, he'd stack cardboard boxes in their living room and put a towel on the top and say mass and even say part of it in Latin. So I mean, he knew from an early age what his life held for him.
So, do you have anything that you can share with us that would be like exclusively for our audience, or is any of that confidential, or can you share some of it?
No, I mean the ingenuity that father had. I mean, which definitely showed up in the prison camp when he was he'd had to make a pan out of a piece of metal that was hardly anything or something that could hold some water. But it was the same ingenuity that he grew up with. They lived out in the country outside of Pilsen, and back in those days, I mean, if you didn't have something, you didn't run to Lowe's or Home Depot and get it. You just had to make what you could do to make do. And I know there was, like I said, they lived out on the farm with a couple cows and stuff, and they had a couple milk cows. And one day, Father Emil, mom and dad were gone, and my brother was gone. And the cow needed milking, and father tried to go out there, and my grandmother was always the one that milked the cow, and he tried to, and she wouldn't stand to hold still for him, and he just wasn't having any luck, and all of a sudden he's like, well, I got an idea. So he went back to the house and got on his old mother's old dress and apron, and went out and started. And the cow had no problem. He thought it was his mom. So I mean, that's just that was always his ingenuity.
Wow, that's so cool. And he did grow up on a farm, is that correct?
Yes, correct. It was about 2.5 miles outside of Pilsen, Kansas, and actually that was where because when he became a priest, that was actually his hometown parish as well too.
Did and this past weekend there was a pilgrimage that you attended
Mhm.
um, to honor his memory. And what was it like? And what was it like seeing so many people come together to honor him and to visit his tomb?
I mean, it's always so phenomenal. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's grown. It's been a little over 15 years now, I guess, that they've done this every year. First year it started with like 10 people, and it's just grown so substantially. This year they had 400 people sign up for the pilgrimage. They had to turn away 150 people because there was that much more that wanted to go on it. And it's not an easy, I mean, it's like 65 miles. They do it over a 4 day period, and most of the walk, you're walking on a gravel rock road, so it's not the easiest of pilgrimage, but it's so incredible to be around the people because they're all there for the same reason. They're all there for the love of Father Emil, and to hear people's different stories of why they love Father Emil so much and praying to Father Emil, and for me that has always been the inspiration of doing these. I've probably done maybe three or four. And I did 2 days. This was the first time I actually walked into Pilsen the last day. And it's just so incredible, just the love that everybody has. And just for everybody to be there for the same purpose. I mean, you can feel that whole group love and mentality. It's just incredible.
I was told that they do about 8 miles a day. Is that stretched out over a week period then?
Actually, the first day you do 23 miles. Yeah, the first day is a pretty grueling day. I did that this year again, and the first day, and then you do about 8 to 10 miles every day, and then the last day in, you do 8 miles going in. So they stretch that over 4 days is what it's stretched over, and then at the end of the last day, like yesterday was the last day, then they have mass out of his church because you end up at his hometown church in Pilsen, and they had mass, and this year it was packed because of the venerable status. I mean, there was such a huge crowd there. It was great to see.
That reminds me, and or that brings it up. So, what was your reaction when you found out that Pope Francis declared him venerable just right before he died?
Yeah, I was getting because they'd kind of been keeping us in the loop of things that was possibly coming up again, because it was supposed to have happened before COVID hit, and then COVID rolled in, and then everything was shut down, and then they were saying, well, it looks like it's possibly coming around again. Well, then the Pope Francis got sick and was just kept going on, and I was like, gosh, that is just going to get kicked out again. And it was really crazy. I was out of town for work, and I get this text from the diocese at like 4 in the morning, which I jump up out of bed. Assuming it was my wife. Nobody else was texting me at 4 in the morning. So I thought, oh my gosh, something's wrong. And I jump up and saw it was Scott Carter, and I'm like, what the heck's he texting? And he's like, call me, and I'm like, it's 4 in the morning. I was like, so I call him up, and he's like, well, I just want to make sure you were the first to know because we just got notified that your uncle's been moved to venerable now, and it was amazing. And what was even more amazing, it was actually on my birthday when they told me. So it was just like, wow, couldn't get a better birthday present than that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, that's the best gift ever.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to top that one.
No, I don't think that's a coincidence. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. Have you ever felt his intercession, or did you feel his presence when you were on the pilgrimage?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel. I mean, I talk to him. I mean, he's an uncle. I know growing up, we never really got to see him as an uncle because my mom always, it was always we always saw him as a priest and a saint because mom always wanted it to be revered and not father. So we never really got to see him as an uncle. And it wasn't until I guess I was like 14 and I found the Saturday Evening Post magazine that Mike Dow had written an article about Father Emil, and I got to see Father Emil as a person and as an uncle because he wrote about how they loved him and how they felt about him, and it was the uncle I never knew. So from that point on, it was like he was every part of my life, and it's just I'm always talking to him. I mean, if something happens and it's just like I've become a firm believer that things just don't happen. There's no such thing as a coincidence, good or bad. There's no such thing as a coincidence. And for me, with his help, I'm able to see and be able to be thankful when something happens to say, thank you for this, and not just, oh, I'm sure glad that worked out type thing. I think I guess the great moment for me was actually this weekend. There was one day that I didn't walk, so I was back in Wichita, and they were doing the Fighting Spirit movie the night before, so I stayed out at the farm and didn't get back to Wichita till like 12:30 in the morning, and then I knew I had to be back out at Pilsen to catch the ride out to the farm like at 5 in the morning. So I got back to the hotel, got 2 hours of sleep, got up and drove out to Pilsen. It was about an hour and a half drive and parked. Well, it was 4 in the morning, and I got there intentionally early because I just wanted to get there. And Pilsen is a huge Catholic church. And there's maybe 10 houses, and that's it. There's no post office. There's nothing there. And I got there, and it was as quiet as can be. Nobody was there. There was no dog barking. The skies were clear. The stars were out. And they've got the statue of Father Emil there on the parish grounds. So I parked my car, got out, went over and just sat down by the statue and talked to Father Emil. And I got up and turned around and looked at the church, and it was just amazing. I was looking at the steeple, and all the stars were in the background. And I took this incredible picture, and it was just like, it was one of those thank you moments. It was like, because I was upset getting up early, thinking, my gosh, it's crazy, 2 hours of sleep, and I'm gonna drive 2.5 or an hour and a half, but it was just like a thank you. It's like, man.
That's so awesome. Well, I mean, are there any other stories you'd like to share that I haven't asked about?
I would, I always like to talk about the POWs. I always like to give them the credit. There's only two of them alive now that were in the camp with them. One's 96 and the other one's 97. But if it wouldn't have been for those guys, we would have never known the stories of Father Emil, because they came out of that camp and continually talked about what Father Emil did for them, how he saved their lives, how none of them, they all have said that they wouldn't be alive if it wouldn't have been for Father Emil. And so I always like to make sure that people know and give credit to those guys, because they fought to keep his name alive and keep his legacy alive. And because if not, Father Emil would have been a sad casualty of the Korean War, like 30,000 other casualties of the Korean War, but it wouldn't have been to the level that he's known for now. And I really attribute them for the possibility of sainthood. I mean, it's just because they did tell the stories and continue to tell the stories.
Well, what do you think drove his conviction? Do you think it was the way that your family was raised, or do you think he had the grace somehow to be this way? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of how he was raised, but there was one moment that Dad told me when because Father had went in at the end of towards the end of World War II, and he was in Burma and India as a chaplain, and he came back, and then when the Korean War was started, he wanted to ask again to go in as a chaplain, and he was actually going to school in D.C. at the time, and decided, okay, I'm going to go in. So he drove from D.C. and they were going to embark from Seattle. So he stopped in Kansas on the way back to see his mom and dad, to see my dad. And while he was there, he pulled my dad aside and he said, "Well, I want to tell you something." And he said, "You can't say anything to mom and dad." He said, "I don't want to upset him." He's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he's like, he goes, "I know I'm not coming back from this one." And dad got upset. He's like, don't you be talking like that." He's like, "No." He said, I'm not upset." He said, "I'm not telling you to be upset and worry about me." He said, "I just know I'm not coming back from this one." And I think God showed him and gave him that moment of, you have nothing to fear. I'm protecting you. Your mission in life is to help others and to offer your life for others like Christ did. And I think that's how he saw it. He didn't go into, he's running across the battlefields with bullets and missiles flying everywhere with no reserve or thought of itself. I mean, it was always about others. And I think it gave him that inspiration of, I'm protected. Even if the worst happens to me and I die, I'm protected. And just that love for his fellow person, even the his enemies that were torturing him and starving him to death. I mean, when they were taking him on the way to the hospital or the death camp, or basically what it was, he knew he wasn't going to come back from it. The camp guard, when they were taking him by him, Father Emil, this guy who was sentencing to his death, Father Emil asked him to forgive him for any harm he may have done to him. I mean, if that isn't love for your fellow man, that's there's no definition other.
Wow. So has Father Emil, has he inspired the rest of your family to live a holy life?
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm probably the one who is out there, because I'm kind of like the family spokesman, and they kind of like, yeah, you're fine. You go ahead and do that. We don't want to we don't want to be out in front of everything. I don't know. I'm hoping, as you can see, I get very excited when I talk about how Father lived his life, and he just inspires me so much every day of what he did. And I've been so blessed to have gotten to know the POWs that were in the camp. And like I said, there's only two left now, but they've like all become my second fathers. And it was like one of the wives of the POWs. She goes, they seem so connected to you because they're seeing their padre in you. And for me, I get to spend time with Father Emil because I can see Father Emil in them.
Wow, that is amazing. That sounds almost supernatural in my opinion, like he's emulating through all of you and here like a saint.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. I raise him as a saint. I mean, we're just waiting for a signature on a page, really. I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm not going to think of him any differently. I'm not. He's already a saint. I mean, he's been there for a while.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that I haven't asked?
No, just everybody keep praying for hopefully the sainthood process. I mean, we've got a pope who was born in the United States, so I mean, I see these signs, and just like this weekend on the pilgrimage, and just the growth, and more people asking and finding out about him. Um, I think I was just in a meeting at the high school here in Wichita, and they're looking at putting a statue in honor of him. And just that. If I told them, I was like, it just feels like we're on the cusp of greatness right now, and just prayers that it just keeps moving forward.
Of course. That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. And I hope that, I mean, we should definitely be praying for his intercession.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it a lot. Like I said, anytime I can talk about Father Emil, I do. So
Thank you so much.